All right, welcome to another episode of the Caffeinated Contractor. I'm Chris and Elevation Construction. I am here today joined by my friend Gabriel Cristain with PMI Values Your Casa. It's an HOA property management company. And we're going to talk today because a lot of people work with HOAs nowadays, especially here in Texas. And when it comes to construction projects, a lot of times you're going to have to work with your HOA, know how to work with them, and you're going to have to know the ins and outs. That way you keep yourself out of trouble. So I wanted to bring Gabriel on today so we could talk a little bit about HOA, how to navigate through projects, and any other information that might pop up. So Gabriel, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Cristain.
Yeah, so we're actually in the same office. He's sitting like right there from me, so we don't have a fancy setup here, but anyway, you might hear him in the background, bit of an echo, but anyway, we're here at his office in Cypress, Texas. And so Gabriel, tell us a little bit about you, tell us a little bit about PMI and the things that you guys do.
Yes, I'm more than happy to do that. Thank you for having me, first of all. So my name is Gabriel. I am the principal operator of PMI Values Your Casa. We're an HOA management franchise. We are here in the Cypress area. We are servicing Harris and Fort Bend counties. However, we're able to do other management outside of those two counties. However, we're just strictly marketing in those two counties. We do anywhere from small, medium, and large HOAs, condominium associations, and any property owners associations as well. Excellent.
So So you're in Cypress area. You primarily work in the Cypress area. Your background, you're in the military. You were in the military, just like me. So we're both veteran-owned companies here. Retired from the Space Force, which is interesting. I know the Space Force exists, but you're the very first person I ever met who is actually in the Space Force. So it's kind of cool to meet you. Just so everyone's background, I met Gabriel. We're in the same BNI chapter here in Cypress, Texas. So that's how we got to know each other and scheduled this. But anyway, so I know there's a lot with HOAs. There's a lot of different aspects of HOAs. But today we want to talk primarily about construction projects, remodeling, or whatever it might be. So I guess maybe you could start off with, like, when someone wants to do a construction project, whether it be, whatever it might be, what kind of steps generally should a homeowner be following in order to get the permission from the HOA? And I know all HOAs are different. They have their own systems, but generally speaking, what are the first steps that a homeowner should be taking?
Yes, no, that's a very good question, Chris. So really that all starts with ensuring that the homeowner does not do any type of work prior to actually submitting the application for an architectural request. Mm-hmm. And so that means that obtaining that form, the application form, downloading it from the website for the actual HOA or the management company. They also got to fill out the request with all the applicable information, and then they got to submit the form with all the supporting documentation, meaning what kind of materials are going to be using, the height, width, all the dimensions for the project. All that's going to be submitted with the application to the architecture review committee prior to any kind of work starting. So that is the first steps of actually going through that process.
Yeah. And as far as like timeline goes, I guess it all depends on how big the community, how big the HOA is, how busy they are. Like, generally speaking, is there a timeline? Is there does it usually take 30 days, a couple weeks, or can they get same day? Is there kind of a guideline there?
That's a good question. So it really depends, right? Depends on how large the project is. Mm-hmm. Where the association is in relation to other communities. Also, how quickly the homeowner wants to get the construction done. Sometimes it takes about 30 days to actually get an approval or denial and a reason for the denial. So if a homeowner has a strict timeline, the best thing that we could advise is really try to work ahead of the game, right, and get all that information out before anything is even purchased or contracted out.
Yeah. Okay. And so with the HOA in this particular scenario, we're working really with the architectural review committee. What is the purpose? Why do they exist? And what's the process with these guys?
Good, very good question. So the Architecture Review Committee can be also as the Architectural Control Committee. So they have different names, but they all kind of do the same. And the good thing about this is that it is actually a committee that is separate and independently from the board of directors for the particular HOA. Now, I will caveat with that is that each community has a declaration for the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So the declaration will lay out if the community is able to have an architectural committee, who can serve on it, the different requirements for that particular group of people, and how many members are going to be in there. And basically, they are the ones that are doing the gatekeeping for the construction projects or any kind of modification to the improvements to the development or the community. It works independently, so this is where one of the good things about it is almost kind of like a checks and balances type of thing, that the board does not have the the authority to deny an architectural request that is exclusively done through the Architecture Review Committee if the declaration allows for one.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. So, yes. Wow, that's interesting. So, yeah, I had a question in there, but then you said something that was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And I forgot my question. I think you kind of answered it, though. I was like thinking about like the type of people, qualifications for the people who would be on the Architectural Review Committee. I would imagine it's people with a background, maybe not a background. Not everyone's got a background in construction or whatever, but I guess every HOA would have their different requirements on, who would sit in that committee. Is that accurate?
So yes, it goes back to, again, the declaration for each of those communities. So every community will have a declaration, and basically what the declaration is a document that it's recorded at the county for that particular development or community. And this is what the declarant, meaning most likely the developer at the time of inception of the community, wrote that document down, and the developer put all the rules and restrictions for that particular community. So the declaration is going to give you all the requirements for the Architecture Review Committee, if they have the ability to establish architectural guidelines, if they could impose of any fees when it comes to any type of approval or denial. So the good thing, the main important thing that we want to highlight here is that the declaration for your community will have that information. And this is where it's important for all homeowners to have access and read and be able to understand what the declaration allows or does not allow in the community. And it varies from HOA to HOA. Yeah.
I know. I mean, ever since I became a homeowner, the 3-letter word HOA is just a bad combination of letters nowadays, right? HOA, and you don't hear anything good that comes of it. But I understand the purpose of the HOA. It's to protect the community in a way. Like for this particular reason, you don't want your neighbor painting their house a ridiculous color, because if you're trying to sell your house, it could deter potential buyers or whatever.
Agreed.
And it keeps the community looking uniform, looking nice, looking like it was meant to be. And it's also protecting, your house and yourself from doing bad work. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So with that said, with the construction projects, when you're wanting to do something at your house, what kind of projects should you be bringing up to your HOA?
That's a very good question. So anything that it has to do with the front lawn, the backyard, especially if it's going to impede the view of your neighbors, or it's going to cause an issue with flooding or any type of water retention, that also has to be brought up with the HOAs, the Architectural Review Committee. There are cases where the board of directors for the HOA can serve as the architecture review committee.
Okay.
But most of the times, those are two separate entities under the HOA.
Got it.
And it's strictly allowed by the declaration. Now, if your community does not, if the declaration for the community doesn't specify that you could stand up an architecture review committee, one of the quickest ways to solve that problem is to get the declaration amended. Go through the legal channels, get it recorded at Harris County to be enforceable, and then you could actually start doing the architecture review work. But as far as the what kind of construction projects, if it's really outside of your home, that is going to either cause a concern with your neighbors because of water retention or views, or it's going to cause some kind of nuisance, you want to get that clear first with the architecture review committee.
So you're talking about a swimming pools,
yes.
patios, painting your house, adding in windows, maybe certain landscaping, perhaps.
Yeah, certain landscaping, pools. You bring up a good point with the pools, because they also want to make sure that the leveling for the backyard it remains as it is.
Okay.
They don't want to actually cause an issue where they build the pool, something happens, it starts to drain, or there's a crack, and now you have a lot of water going into your neighbors,
right,
into your neighbors' yards, or it could cause issues in your own house because of how the pool was constructed.
Gotcha.
So the HOA has access to all that information, whether it's they're self-managed or they actually have a management company. The management company will normally have access to the declaration or the governing documents that kind of give the direction of how to do that.
Yeah.
But yes, inside, more than happy to do anything inside your home, but outside, I know it's can be a sensitive subject to certain people. But yes, it's one of those things that's what HOAs kind of do. You mentioned it earlier, retaining the property values and increasing the property values, but look at HOA as a local government entity per se, where the HOA collects the dues similar to the county collecting the dues. And all those dues from all the homeowners actually pay for all the maintenance in the community, the landscaping, the plumbing, any gate management, any repairs. No different for if it was your local city repaving the roads, right?
Right.
The architecture review committee is then charged with actually making sure that every home is standardized according to the declaration, so you don't have that one neighbor that is painting their house pink.
Yeah.
Because then nobody's going to want to buy right next to a pink house, or that it's completely different from the elevation or the elevation of the other homes.
Yeah. That makes sense. So pretty much inside, free reign, don't need to get HOA involved, just anything that affects the outside and whatnot makes sense. We're actually we've done quite a few projects where HOA was involved. One was just painting the house, which is not a huge deal. You just tell the HOA, this is what color we're going to paint the house. But one that we're working on now, I can't remember if it's in Fairfield or Spring, but we actually, instead of just drawing something out on graph paper, we actually used CAD to draw something to show what the patio would actually look like, as it would, we're actually getting into the roof and tying it into the roof rather than just connecting it to the house. So with the roof pitches and all that stuff, there's a lot of work behind it. But the level of detail that this drawing provides is going to really help out with the HOA on, one, how is it going to look, and two, how's it going to be constructed? And that's going to help them determine pretty easily on whether or not they want to allow this homeowner to go forward with it. More than likely they will, because it's just a patio. Yep. But just for the homeowners who are watching this and they're doing the research on working with the HOA and doing a construction project where you're doing a patio or whatever it might be, getting that drawing done by your contractor is essential, because it gives the HOA, the architectural committee, a good detailed picture of what that's going to look like, and it's going to make their job easier. And if you show them like, hey, I got all my ducks in a row, more than likely they're going to side with you and they're not going to push back. So that's just kind of my recommendation on that.
Agreed. Yeah, you're right on point. The more detailed information and documentation you could provide to the architecture review committee, the quicker and the higher chances the homeowner is going to have of having that approved. I remember having a house in Colorado before moving to Houston, and the front lawn yard actually just died. And they asked me to revive the grass. I thought it was silly, but I actually had a brand new home. The grass that they installed was not what I thought it was going to be. It quickly died. I still was lucky enough that I still had a lot of the drawings and the surveys from the new construction.
Right.
And so I just scanned it, was able to edit the document a bit where I was going to show them that instead of reinstalling new turf, new grass, that I was going to put in artificial turf.
Okay.
So I provided all the details, where I was going to get the turf from, and it was approved. It was very easy.
Yeah.
So the more information, the more supporting documentation the homeowner could provide, the higher the likelihood that they're going to get approved for the construction.
Right. So in addition to, say, a sketch or a drawing of some kind, you get the application. Are there any other types of documentation that a homeowner would need to provide for permission?
So it really depends on some communities through the declaration may establish an application fee. Or a fee that is for the architectural review to go ahead and process such paperwork. That fee is only applicable if the declaration calls for.
Got it.
So just because an architectural review committee is there, if it's not specifically written in the declaration, they cannot just come up with it. It's got to be written. And it's one of the good things about it. So this is where the homeowner actually can do a lot of research and homework on their own and get ahead of the ball game, to where they read the declaration, they read their articles, the covenants, conditions, and restrictions, and they say, okay, well, here's my left and right bounds. As the homeowner, I know what I can and cannot do. I'm going to lean to the things that I can do to have a higher likelihood of getting approved.
Got it.
But as far as forms, sometimes the form is as simple as just the application. Here's the name, address of the homeowner. What are you going to do? Front, rear lawn? And that's pretty much it. Other communities, depending on the size or where they're located, might have additional requirements, but it varies from community to community.
Yeah. Okay. Easy enough. So let's just say a homeowner submits the documentation, the application, the drawing. What are some things, some reasons why an application would be denied?
Another very good question. So yes, there's several different reasons why I will be denied. One of the biggest one is the homeowner failed to submit an application before any of the construction was started.
Yeah.
We tend to find that that's majority of the case. Homeowners, they feel that, hey, this is their home. They shouldn't have to ask for permission. And
I know a few of those.
And sympathize with that. However, most of the times the HOA gives a lot of restriction. And so most times that is the number one reason. You didn't submit an application, you weren't approved, and we need you to take it down.
Yeah.
Right. Second reason is either they failed to provide the necessary documentation or the level of details that were asked.
Sure.
Right. Either the homeowner doesn't want to provide, it's a construction project that's done by themselves and they don't know how to submit those documents. That's another reason. Third reason, they failed to submit the application fee or any kind of fees that they were asked, just simply because they feel like they shouldn't have to pay a fee.
Sure.
Sometimes that is the case, and unfortunately, that could be another reason.
Yeah.
The last two reasons I would say is the construction project or the modification to an improvement is objectively out of tolerance within the declaration standards and specifications, right? So they're out of tolerance.
Okay.
If they're restricted to no more than 6 feet fence, that's for an example, but they do a 10-feet fence, that's going to get denied.
Yeah,
simply
right.
because it's just outside of the
Sure.
the standards. The last one, and I will say is probably one of the hardest one, is the subjective, where the architecture review committee is charged with determining the harmony or capability of the development. Meaning, is this something that can, it's a subjective approval or denial based on, does it look ugly? Does it actually match? It might meet all the specifications, right, objectively, but a certain member of the architecture committee says, actually, it's not pleasing to the eye.
Yeah.
So that is one of the last reasons why it could be denied.
So that would be left up to the preference of the committee then, on their opinion on whether or not your house is ugly or your plan is ugly.
That is correct. And unfortunately, this is where most of the homeowners don't understand how much gatekeeping the architecture committee has.
Yeah.
Because they are charged with ensuring that your community, the houses in the community, remain pretty much standard across the board. Mm-hmm. If there's any kind of weird deviation where a homeowner wants to paint their home slightly off than what it's already approved on, they're more than likely going to deny it because it's not pleasing to their eye, right? Or something ugly and it's just, it doesn't give a good look for the community. So unfortunately, sometimes those things happen and the homeowner has to fight for that. And
so that kind of leads to the next question. Is there a process where they can appeal the decision?
Yes. So usually the architecture review committee will receive all the application, the supporting documentation. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't meet it objectively, then send it back to the homeowner within 30 days, and the homeowner has to pretty much fix whatever is needed to be fixed to get it approved. That's usually just when it deals with objective reasons for why it was denied. Subjectively, the homeowner can appeal, and this is where the board of directors can basically have the ability to see the construction project, see what it is, and approve it or disapprove it based on what it is.
Oh, okay.
And that's on rare cases.
Sure.
Simply because the architecture review committee is given that sole authority to approve those projects. Mm-hmm. The board of directors usually never get involved in such requests, and they're the separation and powers and authority. So there are cases where the board of directors can overturn the decision, but it's on rare.
Okay.
Even on rarer cases where it goes to a judge in a civil court.
Oh, wow.
Very rare does the decision ever get overturned, because simply now the homeowner has to prove to the judge or whoever's overseeing it that the denial decision was made because of arbitrary, capricious, or discriminatory reasons. Right? And this is where the subjective decision to deny.
It would be hard for them to prove that.
But there's been a few cases where that has taken place. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of case law that deals with the decision to overturn those decisions from the architecture review committee. So when people say the HOA has a lot of power and authority, yes, one of the reasons why it is because the HOAs most of the times are organized as nonprofit corporations. Mm-hmm. It's a business entity. It's got a board of directors, no different from a larger corporation. It should be ran as a business entity. Right. Just matters with the community, right?
Sure.
And so the declaration, the board of the bylaws, all the conditions and the covenants, conditions, restriction give all the detail of your left and right bounds of homeowners and also the board of directors. So the board of directors cannot simply just go willy-nilly. They actually have to abide by some of the documents that are in place,
right? Especially
if they're recorded. There's one another things that I kind of want to see if I want to end with is that one of the biggest things that we see sometimes is some of the documents are now recorded at the county level, which in order to be enforceable, you got to have them recorded, which means that you most likely have to have an attorney submit it to the county and record it for them to actually stick in the legal court. So my advice, if there's a lot of HOAs out there, they're self-managed, to work with a management company to figure out how to actually make all this legal and put it in the county. So when a homeowner challenges anything, they're able to have supporting documentation where they can fight the case. But a homeowner also has a lot of chances to appeal certain things as long as the homeowner can prove they're doing it out of, I don't know, malintent or something like that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, HOAs have a lot of authority and they're there to stay. And it's unfortunate for some homeowners, but that's the way that it is.
Interesting. Wow. All right. Well, let's see here. I've got some questions here, but I think you probably hit on them. Are there any specific restrictions or guidelines? No, we covered that. And we covered disputes between homeowners. So actually, no, we didn't. So how does a HOA handle disputes or conflicts between homeowners and the HOA regarding construction projects?
Another very good question, Chris. So this is where sometimes you have different homeowners where they come and say, hey, my request for this construction project was denied, but my neighbor was approved.
Yeah.
And that is a very tough one because this is where the architecture review committee has to be able to answer to that. And luckily, I don't have to answer to that, right? And I'm not involved in that process.
Right.
But this is where it is why it's very important for the architecture review committee to actually follow what they're supposed to follow in the declaration.
Yeah.
There are times where they may deny it simply because they don't like the homeowner, and that's going to find them in a position where it's not going to stand up, either with their board of directors or in court.
Right.
So those disputes do happen at times. It depends on how the variance, how much different. But for the most part, the declaration does give almost exclusive authority and approval to the architecture review committee to deny or approve such construction projects. And whether one home was already approved does not mean that the other one will get approved simply because of one got done. So it's unfortunate those things happen, but there are disputes and sometimes you got to work through that. But
yeah, I think that's the problem when you get into the subjective world, that it's easy to say, well, so-and-so did it, I want to do it too, but they're not always the same, and so I don't know. I don't think I'd ever want to be on the architectural committee.
Me neither. I'm the type of person that like to be fair and square across the board, so I either tell people no and tell everybody no, or I'm going to tell yes to everybody, right? So I operate more of a black and white kind of. There's very little gray, and I don't know, it's just my military background. I covered earlier, but I think that's one of the unique things about me being the business owner and the principal operative for PMI Values Your Casa is that the military background, that I'm able to take phone calls from homeowners that have an issue, and I'm able to kind of help them out and understand. And usually what I find most of the times is that the homeowner is just unaware that, they couldn't do this, or they had to follow this procedure, or here are the rules and why they were getting a violation notice. Most homeowners simply just don't know, and my job here is to inform and educate the homeowners as best I can, so we can move on to bigger and better things, and they can go back to living their life in their nice communities.
So you were mentioning earlier that there's some HOAs in place that maybe are not properly formed, right? They're self-managed, right? So if a homeowner is in a scenario where they have a self-managed HOA, maybe they're not being run the way that maybe they should be. and they happen to be in this area, what would be the best way for them to contact you and to kind of get you involved to help and guide them out?
Oh, great. No, yes, they could contact me. I mean, you could Google PMI Values Your Casa. My office phone number is 832-305-5611. I'm able to receive text messages, voicemails, calls. They could email me at gabriel.cristain@pmivaluesyourcasa.com, or they could just come over here at the office at 17302 House and Hall Road, Suite 327 in Cypress, Texas, in 77433.
Excellent.
Mi casa is your casa. So anytime anybody wants to come over here, just let me know, and the door is always open. I'm here to help.
Excellent. So we'll put all that information in the description area on YouTube, and if you're listening to iTunes and whatnot, we'll put it in there as well. Anything else that you want to cover that maybe we didn't hit today as far as construction or HOA or whatever? Anything that's on your mind?
If you want a management company that is very good at communicating and is very transparent, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to help out as much as I can. And I just want to be able to succeed and help you guys out. And so reach out to me. I'm here for you guys. That's a pleasure.
Excellent. Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, HOA is a 3-letter word that people don't like nowadays, but it's necessary.
Yes.
And if you're going to have one, why not have one that operates properly? And if you don't have one, contact Gabriel. Gabriel will hook you up. The thing about, I was thinking about this earlier, just the military background that we have, it's just ingrained in us that things have to be done a certain way,
Sure.
And we kind of lose sleep a little bit at night if it's not. For me, I kind of notice when things are not running the way it should be, I get a little grumpy and I want to make change. And, but I just think that's just the military in us. And I think the fact that you have that background, is a perfect fitting for overseeing an HOA in the management of it.
Oh, thank you.
Just to make sure that, they're operating properly. They're get all their T's crossed, all I's dotted, proper paperwork in place, structure, organization, and things like that. So if you guys got an HOA and your HOA is all screwed up and jacked, give Gabriel a call. He'll hook you up, and you'll be in good hands. So cool, man. Hey, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it. I know today we hit HOA kind of like high level general because all HOAs are different. They got their own rules and stuff. We'll try to get maybe more specific neighborhoods on the podcast. But I think today's episode really gave you some good guidelines on how to approach a project, the types of things you want to do, and the things you don't want to do. So any questions on that, reach out to us, and thanks for watching. If you like this episode, share it with other people, especially if they live in the HOA area, and reach out to us if you have any questions or if we can help you out with any of your projects. And stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.
We'll see you guys. Peace.